Howdy, y'all. This is the Onision podcast. It's a Substack thing, I guess, now. I guess. If we go to, I think it's onision.substack.com or substack.com/ some, I don't know. You can listen to my podcast while you drive or while you jerk it. I don't know, whatever you want to do. You're a human being. Which, by the way, I just want to start this off with, isn't it funny how much we shame? This wasn't on the list of things that I wouldn't cover, but I'm going to cover it anyway. Isn't it funny how much we shame people for sex stuff? We say, oh, if you look at porn, oh my god, or whatever. Like stepmoms. We shame people so much in this society, and yet none of us would exist without perversion. Not a single one. Can't say the same about murder. You ever think about that? How funny it is? Like we censor sex so much, which is literally the reason that most all of us exist. Few of us are test tube babies, but most of us exist because of sex. I mean, I guess you could say even if you were a test tube baby, the people before you were not. So, I mean, like, how does like the religion, right? How is it God gave you sex? He literally invented that whole thing, and yet it's bad and you should hate yourself for it. It's funny, like a lot of people are like, "Oh, you're attracted to your stepmom or whatever." Look at the view count. Go to an adult website and look at how many people are fantasizing. Adult stepsons fantasizing about their adult stepmoms. Millions of views, but yeah, let's pretend that that's not a thing that people are into. Let's shame people. And that's another thing. How people use sex as a weapon. You know what I mean? Like today, orgasm, orgasm, orgasm. 30 years from now, when that person hates you because they realize you're a dirtbag or something, you're like, you know what? Maybe I didn't have a great time back then. Maybe I didn't orgasm repeatedly and beg for more. That's where society is right now. And I know these are tough pills to swallow, but you're a pervert, is what I'm saying. You're into what you're into. And it would be nice if we'd all stop pretending that the top viewed videos on Pornhub don't exist. Those views didn't make themselves. You, your dad, your mom, your grandpa, your grandma, especially in the old folks' home, they be banging, they be watching porn. You human beings are delusional. And it's what? The foundation is religion. Why would you want to be a part of a religion that teaches you to hate yourself? Hello? What does hating yourself get you? It's ridiculous. Anyway, we promoted the Substack. Viewing things from your enemy's perspective. Yeah, I was thinking about that recently. When you are attacked by an enemy, or when your enemy is doing something mean to you, this is something someone brought up on the forum just today, actually, is like when comedians make jokes at the expense of others, how should we feel about that? And Caitlin said, well, I think that, so long as it's in good faith or whatever, all like, meaning well, then it's fine. And I thought it was funny because Caitlin has been a huge supporter of me, and I am horribly offensive. I've made tons of jokes at the expense of others. And I would make many, many jokes that I've made before again, because that's the whole point of jokes is to use the darkness in the world and shine a light on it. You know what I mean? It's like to flip something horrible on its back. If you don't know what I mean, you need to watch the video A Wonderful Life or A Beautiful World or Beautiful Life or whatever it's called. It's about a father with his son in a concentration camp, and it's a horrible situation, right? But he's making jokes of everything to keep his son feeling, well. And you could say, well, that's a completely different context because he's making fun of something that's horrible in a way that removes the sting. And what you do, Onision, is you look at someone or something that you think is horrible and you just make it even more offensive than it already is. Maybe that's a good point. I don't know. I'd have to see the specific context. Regardless, viewing things from your enemy's perspective, the advantages is there's this thing called posturing, and I'm gonna go through bravado too. We'll go ahead and jump ahead to bravado because it's like kind of like the same subject. But it's basically where people will, whether it's in a video, a national speech, whatever, they will go puff their chest out and give a big speech about how, the other person's so beneath them, they're so superior. It's always that, isn't it? People thinking that they're superior to other people and telling other people to celebrate how superior they are, all while not saying what is obvious that they have NPD or something close to it, that they are in love with themselves, or worse, compensating for how small they feel, which is again often likely a attribute of NPD. So it's like bravado, right? Bravado is where you speak very loudly or very confident, yada, 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 all while on the inside knowing you're wrong, feeling you're wrong, compensating for how wrong you are, or otherwise how small you are. These are all things that I think are pretty important and things that are in society that would be great for each and every one of us to recognize so we don't get so scared or uncomfortable or whatever when someone hauls off and punches us or, does poisons our food, whatever it is. They do something terrible. Shout out to Ray William Johnson. Why is it that so many women live up to the popular belief that poison is the weapon of women? Because every other Ray William Johnson video is about some woman poisoning and murdering people. There's this one lady who poisoned her in-laws, like invited all of the in-laws over and poisoned them all with like a mushroom or something. And I'm just like, God damn. We spend so much time in this society acting like women aren't equal, that they need to be, spoon-fed, coddled, yada yada, and then be poisoning us, the rest of the world. Women are just as bad as men. They just don't have ding-dongs typically. Some do, most don't. Anyway, when you think about the perspective of your enemy, this is something I kind of want to stress. The bravado that they show may make you feel like they are bigger and scarier than they really are. But something that you might want to consider is, are they compensating? You know what I mean? Is this big, angry, or otherwise over cocky, confident attitude actually a huge weakness? It's kind of like some politicians. You'll see them when they're under questioning, they have a stupid smirk painted across their face. That might be a shield. That might not be, they're actually feeling smirky. They're actually feeling confident. They might actually just be frauds. That might just be bravado. Something to consider. Okay. So when you have someone, like, let's say you're getting a divorce with a very manipulative man or woman, and they are just constantly gaslighting you, constantly acting like, you're the most evil person and you're incompetent, blah, blah, blah. But what you don't understand is that from their perspective, a lot of people are scared and they're compensating. So they're just making crap up, or they're operating as a person who's highly defensive. So they're literally tipping the scale in their favor, ignoring their normal morality, all for the sake of getting what they want, being right, etc. You'll notice a lot of people do this with pivoting, whataboutisms, right? You see this in our political climate right now. You have people who will say, oh, well, your negative talk about our great leader has resulted in safety issues. They'll say this. And then people will say, well, what about everything that supposed great leader has said in the past? These are two different conversations. I know they seem similar, but they're two different conversations, because the first question was, what about all this negative speak? You don't say, what about? Instead say, if you want to stay on point, and so many people have an issue staying on point. They think the best defense is an offense, but nobody really gets anywhere with an eye for an eye. Let's address the first eye before we start pulling out other people's eyes. Somebody says, all this negative talk leads to this person having safety issues. You can respond to that like a mature adult and not exactly like your enemy would, where they would also, what about? You hear all this, what about Bill Clinton? What about Obama? What about Bush? What about whatever? Let's stop whatabouting and discuss the right now, okay? Because you may think that you're winning by whatabouting, but if you use the tactics that you hate your enemy using, you're your enemy. You are the same person with a mirror held up. So you have to use a tactic that you would respect your enemy using. And that tactic is, what led to the negative talk about this person? Okay, let's talk about, the freedom to say negative things about people. Where do we draw the line? You see how we're actually making progress on the issue rather than just trying to distract and point back and ultimately get nowhere? Discuss the issue that is in front of you if you don't want to be like your enemy. I'm not saying it's going to win you points. I'm not saying it's going to make you fix the world. I'm saying this is something that will make you probably respect yourself more, sleep better at night. Maybe you'll get less headaches. I don't know. The whataboutisms are part of what I think is the cancer in society because it guarantees in so many situations that we accomplish absolutely nothing when we talk. And also, this whole cult obsession with the guy on my side can't be wrong, that's nuts. Everybody can be wrong. Everybody can make mistakes. There's no gods. There's no gods among the men and women of this earth. So everyone can make mistakes. So if you are in a position where you would say, I draw the line at this, my leader will get criticism with me or from me once they cross this specific line. And then they cross that line, and instead of saying my great leader is now bad, you say, well, what about? Or say that was then, this is now, or I didn't know what I was saying, or he didn't know what he's saying, or he didn't know what he's doing. I didn't know what I was doing. Bull crap. Just endless bull crap. Stand for something. You know what I mean? When somebody says, when your rhetoric is pushed out there, it triggers people to become extremists. You say, first of all, let's start where this began. Before my rhetoric, before the things that I said became public, what happened? Well, your great leader openly said that, he did something terrible to someone and he liked it, or they liked it, but now they don't like it. Whatever's going on, whatever the story is. People change their stories sometimes. Contexts are enormously different. There's a trend of a lot of contexts being the same lately. The point is, where did it start? Let's dissect this story and let's have a real conversation. Let's not just go back and forth slinging mud and never actually addressing a single issue in the room. I feel like knowing your enemy is all part of this. What does your enemy do when you start to say, you know what? Let's slow down. Let's stop trying to get clips for TikTok. And let's actually address what's going on. Let's tell a story. The story of how we got here. The story of what you said about our great leader back in the day. And what we would be saying if the roles were reversed. Would we be saying the same thing? Know your enemy. Your enemy's flesh and blood just like you. And that's your hack. That's how you can get right through and dismember your enemy. Because they're just like you. They may not have the same morals. They may not have the same worldview. But they came from the same place, a vagina, most likely. They were raised by someone. They ate food just like you. They probably grew up in the same society as you. Watched the same TV shows as you. You probably are more like them than you think. You already know your enemy. It's just a matter of actually sitting down and thinking about it. You're not dealing with a boogeyman. You're not dealing with an angel, a demon. You're dealing with a human being. Know yourself, know your enemy, and you might find a lot of your anxiety disappears. Better, you might find out that your enemy is terrified. People who feel the rules do not matter, and instead of answering questions directly, they go on the attack, get highly defensive without attaching real world evidence or directly address the issue at hand. That's something I was watching. I don't know if it's depositions or addresses to high political level individuals, but I was watching something, and I've been seeing a trend politically where, for some reason, people are asked a direct question, and in response to that question, they, one, don't answer the question, and two, go on the attack. I saw two women go in front of high political individuals, and they would just go on the attack. They would say, "You're not a real lawyer," and no, 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 no. It was really like people who represent themselves in court, it was like that level garbage. You know what I mean? Because like there's the person who goes to court and they're prepared and they are representing themselves, but they actually did their research and they know how to act like a damn adult, right? And then there's the people who are in like small claims court or whatever, and they're just acting like a goddamn child. They go in there throwing a temper tantrum, pointing fingers, blah, blah, blah. And then boom, a week later, they're fired from whatever job they're working. It's amazing, because a lot of times you see attorneys going in these buildings and acting like children. They like, I wish somebody would stop these people and say, can you tell me the difference between how you are acting now in this deposition or this hearing or whatever? Can you tell me the difference between how you're acting now and how a 10-year-old little brat would be acting in your shoes? What's the difference? Go. Of course, they would go, I don't appreciate the disrespectful question. What I want to talk about is how great the S&P 500's doing right, some nonsense, the whatabouts, right? But it would be nice if we could get direct answers out of people. And I feel like there should be a standard that if you can't answer the question, not I don't know or I forgot or whatever, but if you straight up immediately go on the attack, there should be rules against attacking. If you're a person sitting there being questioned, you shouldn't be able to say, well, your diaper smells, sir. To like a 90-year-old man, you poop your diaper, sir, and you smell. If they say that, there should be a penalty because you're wasting everybody's time, everybody's money. Some kind of penalty. It doesn't have to be a big one. $10. Something. $10. You got to buy the person you just insulted a Subway sandwich. Something. Some compensation. So there's some kind of incentive for these 60-year-olds to act like 60-year-olds instead of like 10-year-olds. But right now we have some of the worst examples of how to behave in a professional environment. And I don't know why it's this way. I don't know what bizarro world we slipped into, if we all just died and this is our hell. But back when I was growing up, adults acted like adults. You remember that? Back when I was growing up, adults acted like adults. Now we have people in high political office acting like 10-year-olds. And nobody's asking, why are you acting like a 10-year-old? Do you remember what it's like to act like an adult? It's when you respond to a question with an answer. For starters, if a cop pulls you over and says, have you been drinking tonight? You don't insult the cop's wife and say that he's fat. You say, no, I was not drinking tonight. Or if you were, you fess up and you go to the slammer and you get into rehab and you act like a mature adult. Take accountability so you can finally make progress. Something I love to say is the moment I admit that I'm wrong, I'm right. Wouldn't it feel great to, instead of living another 10, 20, 40, 50 years of being wrong, you could start being right today? Confess that you're wrong if you're wrong. And you can finally start living the rest of your life. But so many people in our political office would rather be wrong their entire lives, not realizing that they're the reason they're miserable. There's some people who are miserable because of the actions of others. Those are called victims. And there are some people who are miserable because of the actions of themselves. I just want to sit in silence after that moment. There's some people who are victims of others, and there are some people who are victims of themselves. Either way, someone's miserable. You can't control others, you can only control yourself. So, what are you going to do about it? If you think everyone's constantly attacking you for new behavior, new daily behavior, and it's unfair, you might want to change your strategy, buddy. Like that's you ever see I was watching this TV show. It's something Margot. And there's this beautiful, beautiful woman. And she's starting an OnlyFans on this show. It has the guy from Parks and Recreation on it. The gay guy from, he's not actually gay, but the gay guy from The Last of Us. Anyway, she is criticized and attacked by her mom. But after this big fight of her shaming her daughter for being on OnlyFans, she says, well, I need you as a witness for our wedding tomorrow, my wedding. And I was just thinking, God, this woman just shamed her adult daughter with a baby for being on OnlyFans to feed her baby. And she has no friends. She has, like, she's like, your whole life is ruined. And I'm like looking at that and I'm thinking, bitch, you're a loser. Like, this is a woman who used to work at Hooters, which is fine. It's totally hot even. It's hot to work at Hooters. It's beautiful to work at Hooters, right? But that's not that far from OnlyFans. Hooters, OnlyFans, either way, you're selling your body, you know? Like I have an OnlyFans, and it did well. Very well. I say did, past tense. It did well. It did better than I ever dreamed of. That money's basically gone, but for the time, it did nicely. So I don't regret that. That was awesome. A bunch of gay men indicated that they very much so like me, and that was very flattering, and I appreciate that. But I wouldn't say I'm above a Hooters bar person. I'm not above other OnlyFans people. I'm not above a lot of folks. What I'm saying is, this woman is judging her daughter based on her daughter actually pulling in income. What's really embarrassing is when you join OnlyFans and you don't make a dime. That's embarrassing. That means nobody has any interest in you, or you're terrible at marketing, or both. But this mom is a loser, and she's trying to say, how could you do this? You ruined your life, i.e., if I was in your body and I was making your decisions, you would wind up like me. The problem is that she wound up like a goddamn loser. She doesn't have anybody to witness her wedding. She's getting married in Vegas in front of a fake Elvis, and she's trying to give her daughter life advice. Like, you should wind up like me. You should have worked at Hooters. And by the way, this woman also got her daughter fired because she couldn't handle watching the baby while her daughter was at work. So she showed up to her daughter's work and handed the baby back to her, and the daughter got fired from her job because they realized that the daughter was a burden to their workplace, which seems like a lawsuit. If you fire someone for being a mom, you should probably get sued. That's discrimination. That's whatever. Anyway, but they fired her for that. And then the mom shames her daughter when she joins OnlyFans because she got fired from the job she got fired from because of her mom. Hate this woman. And she's creepy and scary. Yuck. She looks like me as an old woman. So yes, creepy and scary. Anyway, you should look that up. Tell me if I'm right. Does she look like me oh, that might hurt my feelings. Does she look like me as an old woman? And is she creepy and scary? The amazing nature of world perspective versus cult followings. So this is what's interesting. When we talk about Democrats and Republicans, you have people who don't have someone's name on their bumper sticker. They don't have a flag flying in front of their house with someone's name on it. They don't worship someone like they're a god or a deity or anything like that. Instead, they just elect people based on their merit. There is no one like, for instance, a scandal comes out about the politician they support. It turns out it's a real scandal, not just nonsense rumor. The people stop supporting that person openly and publicly, and that's the end of it. Meanwhile, you have other people who support someone despite their scandals, someone who could be a literal convicted criminal, and they'll still support them. That's when I'm like, how are you not a cult? That's weird. It's weird to support someone you don't know in political office. Like, there are people who cast me out of my own family over hearsay, nonsense, proven, debunked claims, right? Who basically cut me out because of what they heard. Those same people voted for a convicted criminal, someone who lost multiple civil lawsuits in connection with the horrific claims against them. Lost those lawsuits. Now, the bar to lose a civil lawsuit is like 51%. It's not that. It's literally a coin toss. So if that person lost a criminal lawsuit, that's like 98% confidence, something like that. So when they lost criminal lawsuits, okay, that I could say, if you're innocent, sucks for you. That sucks if you get convicted in a criminal court and you're innocent. But it's also highly unlikely. In a civil situation, it's literally a coin toss. Winner. It's really unfortunate that it's not more strict than that, but they don't need a lot of confidence in a civil lawsuit because it's not about someone's freedom, it's about someone's money. And people don't take money losses as serious as they take freedom losses. I learned about this, in college. But yeah, people will still support someone despite a 34 count, whatever, criminal conviction. And you just look at them and you're like, is there anybody home? You could have supported anybody. You could have supported a number of alternatives, but you chose the criminal. And I'm not saying this person is a criminal. I'm just saying they are convicted. A jury found them to be beyond reasonable doubt guilty of like 34 or so crimes. And that's good enough for me when it comes to strangers, okay? I'm not saying I hate the guy, although I have seen the truth posts, and I don't love people who talk like that. Anyway, addressing people's honeymoon phase and overall marital, gosh, I wish I could. Overall marital resentment. I have more topics, but I've actually run out of time. I want to thank Rylant. I want to thank the funder of this video. First time I've ever seen this person actually fund a video. Thank you for that. This was funded by using the Onision forum to, that's like $70 for an entire podcast of me talking about a bunch of issues. One person can fund the whole thing, and then hundreds of people, maybe even thousands, get to enjoy it. They say they enjoy it. Some do. Not all of them. I think that's cool that you guys have that power, and I think it's cool you keep bringing me back. Thank you for that. So thank you to Rylant, who's a big member on the forum. They're a fan of King of the Hill. I am too. And, thank you for showing me love. I could start crying, but I have to go. Thank you. And this might be my last video if videos never funded again, but I hope you guys have a brilliant day. I hope whether you hate me, love me, or something in between, you have a good life, cancer-free, live long, and don't have suicidal ideations because I wouldn't wish that on anyone. Bye.